Welcome to the WildFins training module on how to add a survey and sighting. So you see that we have opened our sighting form, which is under sighting in the main menu. So we're going to add a new survey. So this is essentially the data that you gathered when you were out in the field. You're now going to enter into the WildFins app. So let's get started. So we can enter today's date. And we'll say that we started fairly early, so our engine was on at 6 a.m. and our survey started at 6:30. Then we came back 2:30 in the afternoon, but we ended our survey at about 2. Then for the team members, you would just click in this gray box here and select the members of the team that were out on that survey. So we'll say Lydia and Megan and Brooke. The survey route, again, click in the gray box and then select whichever route the team took. So for this video, we'll just say they left Harbor Branch and went north to the Sebastian Inlet. For platform, that's what vessel they took. So we'll just choose the 19-foot Hurricane. The stock is the NOAA stock. So since they were traveling north to Sebastian Inlet in the river, we'll say it was the IRL estuary stock. Body of water, Indian River, and the survey type we'll say was a transect. All the information up here in blue is part of the survey, so that will stay with the day. Regardless if you have one sighting or 20 sightings. So this will all stay. So now we'll get on to the sighting. So this will be our sighting 1. So we'll say that the survey effort was on. So you check that box there. And we'll say this was sighting number 1. We'll say, since we started our survey fairly early, that it was our first sighting was at 6:45, and with such an efficient team, they finished it in 10 minutes at 6:55. Outside of Harbor Branch, it would be possibly ICW marker 171, and then we'll just write that this is a test location. So if you wanted to write any information about the actual location, you would write it here. When you're out in the field, you can do initial, at, and end latitude and longitude. The ones that populate the map, the Google map, are the at latitude and longitude. So I believe I just have Harbor Branch's lat long here. And once you enter that, you click validate and your Google map will populate. Moving on, the next thing you would enter is all of your environmental covariates. So in the conditions section, so we'll just say, no, it's storming out right now. I'll say it was the wave height was low, the weather was clear, glare was none, so there was no direction of the glare. Sightability is excellent, Beaufort. We'll just put glass. We'll say you were in 5 feet of water and you're in the channel. It's still warm, so we'll say the air was 90, water temp 86. Wind speed we'll just put as light. And we'll say it was a slack tide. If you gathered salinity, you would enter that PPT here and then your heading. So we'll say this animal was heading north, and then we can change that at the end, or these animals northeast. Then we go into our field estimates. You see here that the species default is Tursiops. You can change that if you're out in the ocean and you're following humpbacks or right whales, etc. So let's say we had a min of 6 and a max of 7, but it was probably 6 with a couple of calves and maybe one baby, one young of year. So you enter that as your field estimates. Again, this is all data that would have popped up, that you would have gathered in the field. Next is your activities, and you just hit a drop down for the prevalence of the activities. So let's say these animals were milling around mostly. They were feeding, and maybe they were playing, especially with the baby. So you can enter up to 10 different activities, and then we move on so we know that they were playing. So we'll go down to behavioral events, and we'll just click in this gray here for behaviors. So let's say they were playing, and maybe they were being social, and maybe you got a chuff from a mom. We also said that they were feeding, and the team was did an excellent job and grabbed some photos, and we can determine that there was sheep's head and maybe let's put some mullet in there. If you grabbed the lat long of where they were feeding, if it was different than your other lat long that you entered up here, then you would enter that data here. Also, if there was a structure, like let's say it was along the channel marker, you would enter that here. Fisheries, boating, and harbor branch vessel interactions, you would enter that data here with the number, responses, the response from the humans, and etc. The camera that was used with the lens and the photographer, so I forgot who we put on there. So let's say Brooke was the photographer and Lydia was our driver. And then you would add any notes. This is a test. And then we're going to save this sighting and go to the cetacean sighting. You would click here. And that's it.